Hey everyone, John Jonas here, and I am here with Scott Smith, and I'm super excited for this because I'm always excited to talk with people. But Scott's having some really good success with his guys in the Philippines, and so first of all, I just want to get into this. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. Just so long as you call me Sir Scott, because I'm kind of getting used to that.
Okay, Sir Scott.
I just want to feel at home. There you go. Yeah.
Sir Scott, how many people in the Philippines do you have working for you?
I've got three right now. So
For how long have they
Yep.
been working for you?
Well, I've had one of them over a year. My general VA. She's been with me for over a year, and then I've had my graphics and video designer for about a year. And then I've had a guy that's doing a lot of my social media management for me. He's been with me for a couple of months and doing tremendous.
Tell me first of all, what's your business? What do you do, if you don't mind?
Well, I do a little bit of everything. I do a lot of lead gen stuff for offline. I do a lot of, in our niche, we hear it's often called offline business, offline market, where you're doing internet marketing for brick and mortar. I've actually carved out a pretty healthy business just working with churches who know nothing about list building and lead gen. So I've been able to do that and created my own system for that. And we're also doing some stuff here locally, which a lot of internet marketers do. It's so easy to get into on a local level. So,
Okay.
but there's plenty there. There's plenty there for VAs to do. I guarantee that. Where
Sorry, go ahead and finish.
Yeah, whatever you do in this stuff, there's plenty there for VAs to do. There's no reason to get bogged down in the tech when they can do so much of it and do it so well.
So what are they doing for you? What are the things that they're doing? Actually,
Well,
turn this down.
one of the first things I did was I hired my first VA, and I stuck her right on WordPress. Of course, I looked for somebody that knew all about WordPress, plugins, plugin modifications. Somebody that could install WordPress, install any graphics that I got created from a graphics person, and do all the modifications, fix small problems, that may be there. That's what I did first, and that's a biggie. I think, because WordPress is almost like a bottomless pit. I mean, you can sit there all day and tweak things and play with things and find new plugins, and man, that is a trap. So I know what I want done, and I just tell her to go do it, and she's got our list of plugins for every site. So it's like punch this site out, add these plugins, and then I can turn around to my graphics guy, and that's all he does. By the way, my graphics guy in the Philippines, that's all he does. He does graphics, and he does video design work, and I know and I went through kind of a temptation in the beginning. Let's find somebody that does everything. Let's find a WordPress designer. But typically what I'm seeing there, and I just kind of dabbled with different people, they're either really good at WordPress and they're okay at design, or they're really good at design and get stuck on the programming side with WordPress. So that is a problem. So what I really wanted to do is get somebody that's comfortable with WordPress, and then some other technical stuff like some FTP, file transfer, that type stuff. Internet research. Your WordPress person, for me, she can do internet research. She can look for joint venture partners. She's done that, compiled some lists for me on that. But my graphics guy, he just does graphics. So as long as I can give him, look, these are the dimensions. This is what we need. He can serve that up. She can install it and turn it out. And we come up with pretty nice looking websites. And I can't say that I have a WordPress designer on my team, but we end up with really nice WordPress sites just because I have a great designer and someone who knows how to manipulate WordPress. So, yeah, go ahead.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want you to continue, but I have a couple of questions first.
Cool.
So, interesting that you said that WordPress is like a bottomless pit, because it is. I mean, you could spend, and I've seen so many people spend so much time tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking because that's what's comfortable for them. And
Absolutely.
and they think that if I do this, then I'll make sales, or if I tweak this, then I'll make sales. Then if I add this plugin, then I'll make sales. And the reality is that most of that stuff doesn't do anything. Making sales makes money.
Yes, any of the tech, any of the tools can become an excuse to procrastinate on what makes you money.
100% agree.
Yeah, so delegate that stuff.
Okay, so when you said it's a bottomless pit, did you spend a bunch of time at some point getting to know WordPress really well?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did.
So I think I always find it interesting that people that are using WordPress really well, they know WordPress. They know it well. They know what exists for WordPress. They know how the plugins work. They know what you can do with plugins, but they don't do it. And
Right.
that was a really big key to my success in like transitioning myself. Was I knew WordPress really, really well. I understood it really well. I had written a couple plugins myself. I'm a computer programmer. I graduated from college in computer science. I don't do any programming anymore, but being able to turn over my WordPress stuff to someone else was so awesome to completely understand WordPress, to understand like how plugins work and how themes work, and not like the technical pieces of it, but to understand that this exists.
Yes.
And then hire a Filipino, because then you can give them very specific instructions on like, I want this. I don't want that.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything else you can talk about that?
Yeah, I do. I want to say something about a couple things come to mind. First of all, my VA in the Philippines, who now does my WordPress stuff for me, she knows WordPress better than I do, and so she's excelled me because I'm not in it every day. She is, and so I'm able to say, I need to, for instance, I need to turn this page into a post. Or I need to turn this post into a page. Well, she found a plugin that does that. Now, you guys may be out there. Here we go. You guys may be out there listening to this saying, "Oh, I've known about that plugin for 2 years." Here's the point. I didn't know about that plugin. She did. And what really she could have charged me by the hour for 3 hours to actually do a bunch of pages or convert a bunch of pages to posts. She went out, found a plugin, installed it. Now I know it's there. Now that's a standard plugin on all of our sites. So there's that. The second thing I want to say is, and this kind of touches on where I am right now. For instance, we're about to bring a guy on that just does SEO. That's all he does. He's going to be focused on getting whatever I want ranked, and we're going to be getting for him some pretty high-powered tools. And I won't name any names of software, but I mean there's some really high-powered stuff out there. And so what I did was
Hold on a second, Scott.
Yeah, go ahead.
he knows. He already knows.
Okay, Dad, whatever. So what I did was I went and I downloaded a bunch of trainings, like out of the Warrior Forum and different places, video trainings that guys were selling for $6, $7, $8 on how to use this software. And I learned the software, not all the ins and outs. I just went through the videos, got the overview so that I could be competent when I went to hire the VA to do the work. And so now we can kind of converse and say, when I say, well, what would be your SEO plan if I wanted to get XYZ ranked and use this software, and he tells me what his plans are, I'm somewhat competent in knowing what he's talking about and all that. So I learned the stuff to some degree just so I can be competent when I hire someone that's specialized in that area. So that's a whole different ballgame than thinking going in that I'm going to be doing all this stuff, because that's where you get bogged down in the details and you never get anything done really.
I think that's such good advice. I love it. I think that's such good advice that you understand it and then you give it to someone else. Because I see a lot of people that don't want to understand anything. They just want someone else to do it all, and that's you can do that sometimes. Sure is a lot more effective when you understand it yourself, and you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to understand everything yourself, but you got to understand a little bit yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna try this without my video on, just so everyone knows. We pause this for a second and stop the video and try it again. See if this helps. See if this helps you guys see Scott.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
I have some questions based on what we've talked about so far. First of all, you have a graphic designer. Can you give me specifics of what he does? Because I think a lot of people have kind of found that hiring a designer specifically is too much for them. What do you have this guy doing for you?
Well, anything graphically. I mean, a lot of what we do, I don't care what you're doing online, you're going to need graphics. You're going to need headers, you're going to need banners, you're going to need banner ads created, you're going to need different things. And you need somebody that understands how to follow instructions, because, if you need an ad and it's an ugly ad and you have a great designer, he's going to have a hard time creating an ugly ad if you don't get really clear. But you're going to need a lot of pretty stuff, for your headers and even, maybe even occasionally print stuff or whatever. Interesting story about my graphic designer. He was the second Filipino that I hired. I was blown away at his talent. I mean, he was he's so creative, and he's got a degree and everything in graphic design, very well educated, and he was spitting back some amazing graphics. And then to this day, if I send an order for anything, and he's doing logos, to answer your question, logos, banner ads, any kind of headers, footers, anything that I need graphically. He blows my mind with his work. Well, I was in a bind for a video. I needed video design work done, and I just asked him if he knew anybody, and he's like, "Oh, sir, I do video. Let me try." And so I sent him basically the instructions on what I needed for video, and he sent back the video intro, the video outro, the lower third. Everything was professional quality. I mean, really, really nice. And he knew how to render right. That's kind of a big deal. He knew how to render the settings right so that the video that he sent me was ready for the web. So matter of fact, I broke out a whole little side business just off what he can do, where we're creating video intros for people in our niche, and then a logo. And the thing is, I'm able to give a discount. Well, what it looks like to the end user, it's a great big discount on the price of this video intro, and then we're throwing in a free logo of your choice, as a bonus, because the margins are so great between what I pay him. And by the way, and as you often talk about in his world, that's a nice face. In his world, he's making really good money. But in our world, the margins are really there, and it's great. I mean, my clients, they feel like they're getting a deal. He's charging me way less, and I'm making the difference. And that's a business. That's not immoral. That's not unethical. That's a business. A business is when you outsource or buy low and you sell high. So I'm buying wholesale graphics and video work, selling retail. He's getting paid. I'm getting paid, and making the difference. But to say that, I mean, I did literally create a little side business just off what he can do graphically. So he does all of the video work, and he does all of the graphics work, and a lot of those graphics that he creates go into the videos. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. As I alluded to earlier, I don't have a WordPress designer on my team, but we're doing a lot of WordPress design work because I have a great designer. And I have a WordPress programmer, essentially, that's able to communicate what the needs are. And I know what I want the end product to look like. So really, that's really a complete package, right? You could almost start several businesses just off those two team members.
Yeah, that's really, really great. So you talk about you didn't want what you said, quote, do-all person, where someone that's doing everything. And I'm a little bit different, where I've hired people to do a specific task, and maybe this isn't all that different. I've hired people to do a specific single task, and then over time I teach them to do more and more things, where right. at some point they become very, very knowledgeable about my business. Talk about not hiring a do-all person.
Yeah, because you can be great at a few things, but you're not going to be great at everything. and the jack of all trades is a master of none, and whatever other cliche you can think of right now. It all applies. If you hire somebody that you want to be a really great, and I know when we sit down and we post a project at the Filipino site or any of the sites where we're looking for workers, it would be great to sit down and list out all these perfect attributes of the ideal worker, but I believe, and from my experience, that's just a fantasy. It's a fairy tale. I'd rather have somebody who's really good at WordPress and programming, in general, PHP programmer, for instance, and then have somebody who's really good at design work, or even a really good person who's good at VA and customer service and internet research or whatever, and have them really good at a few areas, and then put the team members in place that are really good at what they do. That's my preference, because I think at the end of the day, whatever you're putting out there online is of higher quality. Because if you if you go out there and you say, I want someone who knows all about WordPress and can design WordPress sites, just as an example, chances are they're going to be really great at the programming side and the management side, and they're going to be not so great, just so at design. Or if they're going to be really great at design, they're going to keep getting stuck on the programming side. So I'd rather have two team members in place and have them be really good at what they do.
I agree with you. And just so you know what I have on my team, we have a couple different programmers, but specifically I have a technical person, a programmer who he doesn't do any web content. He doesn't deal with our websites at all, other than, I want this updated, I want this fixed, I want this to be like this. He's a technical person. And then I have a girl that all she does is writing. She never looks at our website. She never deals with them. All she does is write, and she is amazing at it. Mm-hmm. And then I have other people. They all write. They all do some technical things. They all deal with the websites. But when it comes down to the important things, they're not doing that. They're not writing. They're not doing important writing. They're not doing important technical. They will, but they'll do marketing stuff.
Right.
So, some of that separation is really, really great, especially when you get to the point like you are where you need a technical person. You want a technical person to be technical. You don't want them writing articles for you.
Right.
So
right. Let the left brain person be left brain. Let the right brain person be right brain.
Right.
And and keep the division. And by the way, I do have another programmer as well who's far more advanced than a Filipino VA who does WordPress. He is a PHP Ajax, programmer, and so, just every now and then I need a plugin modified. Every now and then I need not someone who just knows how to find the right plugin and install it, but someone who will actually change the plugin, especially if you have two that are conflicting. You need a programmer for that. Now, I'm paying him 4 times more than I pay my Filipino VA, and he's in the UK, but I don't use him as much. Now, could he do everything that she does? Could my UK programmer do everything that my Filipino does? Yeah, absolutely. But you don't want to take a Rolls Royce to a dirt bike race. You got to realize that you paid those higher dollars per hour for higher end work, and so I've even separated out my programmers, if you want to call my Filipino VA a programmer. She's just more of a WordPress person. She's not really a programmer. But I've separated that out.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because that's interesting.
Yeah.
I have a couple programmers in the Philippines, and I would pit them against anyone in the world in their talent. I'm serious.
Yeah.
One of my guys, I would let him program anything. He's as good or better than I ever was.
My UK programmer up against your Filipino programmer.
Yeah, right. Except mine's a lot cheaper.
Exactly. Any day of the week. Yeah.
And he and I are great friends, and I love him, and he can do anything. He can do literally anything I want. And so here I'm talking about a programmer. He also does most of our technical work, like update this WordPress plugin, or hey, I want this done on our sites, and I don't see a WordPress plugin that does this. Write one for me. Make it happen. And he'll do that.
Yes.
So there's kind of a distinction there between two kinds of people. A webmaster who understands WordPress, who, typically my, quote, webmaster people, I hired them for their English skills. They're really good at English. They spend a whole bunch of time learning WordPress. They can do any of the WordPress stuff that I want done. But I also have a programmer who, when something comes down to it, and I want backups done of all my WordPress sites, and I want them done. I want to make sure that they're done. He does it. I want this thing changed on 6 sites, and I want it done right. He does it. I want this plugin written to do something for WordPress. He does it. And, my webmasters aren't doing those things, and that's an important distinction, I think, to make.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about by the hour. Your people work by the hour. Why did you hire them like that? Why do you have people hired by the hour? Because I'm a big proponent of hiring Filipinos full time. Why?
Yes, you are. Yes, and I've heard you talk about that, and every time I hear you teach that, I'm thinking, John's right. It would be better if I hired somebody full time. I'm in a little bit different situation. By the way, my graphics guy does not work by the hour, and I initially hired him that way, and he requested that I pay him by the project, and that's worked out great. So
that's good to hear.
It's just by the project or whatever. But here's the thing that's really got me thinking. Now, first of all, let me give you the exception to in my situation. I do have an assistant here in town. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and she lives in town. She's a work-at-home mom. She does a lot of stuff for me from home, but once a week she comes in here and does a lot of admin stuff here in the office, where I rent an office here in town. I get more done when I step out of the house, so I've set up an office here. She comes in 1 or 2 days a week and just processes a lot of the admin stuff. And so she's been with me for 3 or 4 years now, and I found her on Craigslist, which is a great way to find people locally. And so I have a certain loyalty to her, and she knows a lot about my bit. She would be hard to replace, honestly, if I ever lost her. I have several businesses running out of this one office, and she knows a lot about each of them, especially in terms of just cutting red tape and administration and a lot of customer service. So she would probably take on more hours if I would give those to her. And so there's a certain benefit of having her around. And so if she wasn't in my business, if she wasn't on my team, locally, that is, I would probably go and hire probably my Filipino VA that's been with me for about 1.5 years, 2 years now almost. I'd probably take her on full time and let her do more.
Okay.
But my biggest fear is the usual fear that I'm afraid I wouldn't have enough for him to do.
I understand that fear. I mean, I do understand that fear. I had someone tell me that once you start having other people do your work for you, and you start seeing, then that's when you start seeing how much there is to be done and how much they can do for you. So beyond that, I will just tell you, if you were to hire them full time, you would probably see an increase in productivity. You'd probably see an increase in loyalty. You'd probably see an increase in their devotion to the work that they're doing and to your company, because now it matters. Whether you succeed or not matters to them, because that's their job. That's how they keep their job, is by helping you succeed. So I'm just saying, if you were to hire them full time, you'd probably see an even another increase in the productivity and in the work that you get done by them. And maybe it's something you do one at a time.
Yeah, I receive that. I mean, I hear you. I mean, I believe that, because I think there's a lot of things that as an entrepreneur, and we're always having these successive entrepreneurial seizures, we get these ideas, and I think, well, I don't really have time to do that right now. But, maybe 2 hours or 3 hours of planning out some of those ideas may fill several days in a VA's life. So I could see that. The other thing that I take from what you just said also in terms of loyalty, I I know, for instance, my graphic designer is doing work on a freelance basis for several other businesses. And, you know, at any given day, if they realize he's getting really, really busy, they could just say, hey, $500 a month, you know, we'll pay you full time to work for us. And literally, if that guy, if one of my competitors or not really a competitor, but one of the other guys that my designer works for said that, I could lose my designer. And he's a big piece of my business. And so I have kicked around the thought a little bit about hiring him on full time and guaranteeing him a salary, simply because that way I would have, I would have an on-staff graphic designer, as it were, and have his loyalty. And, you know, having someone that does really good graphics, when you're basically pushing those graphics on and those videos on to other clients that are paying me, it'd be a big asset to lose if that ever happens. So
that fear right there, I mean, it is a hard way to run a business. If he leaves, it's hard. I mean, it's a lot of pain for you, and that's
yep.
one of the big reasons why I say hire full time. Hire him full time, because it's so much easier to run a business that way. So let's real quick. I want to revisit a conversation that you and I had offline. You don't know if you have enough work for her to get done. We just finished talking about doing affiliate marketing, where so many people come into this business as they're taught affiliate marketing and they realize it's kind of hard, and not a lot of people succeed doing it, and then they find local business marketing and it's kind of easy, and they're succeeding doing it. That extra time that she has, that sounds like a pretty good time to start building some passive income doing the affiliate marketing stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe a good reason to hire her on full time. Maybe you have your graphic designer full time and have him do some of it too. Not just design work, but let him start learning some other things and start doing some of that in the extra free time. And I think a lot of people would benefit by building a team doing local business marketing, where you're succeeding,
yes.
where you're making money, where it's profitable. And then, you have 20% of time left over where you're not keeping them busy. Let them start building you passive income. Any thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that's, one of the things you and I were talking about was how I came into internet marketing kind of in the back door. I went almost immediately into coaching. I mean, of course, I learned a lot and I produced my own products and sold them online. But as far as, I was selling my own products and doing my own marketing, and rather than dive into the affiliate side so much, I just went into the coaching side, because that's, there's a lot of money there too, and you can get paid well for your advice and expertise. Now, so I've gone through all this and developed certain businesses and niches, and I'm thinking, there really is I have a lot of knowledge about how to do affiliate marketing, and I think in terms of most people probably listening to this have probably read far more ebooks than we're ever going to put to practice. What to do, you're just not doing it, and in the affiliate marketing world. And so to fill some of those gaps in that time of a full-time assistant, for them to go out and do some keyword research, find the affiliate products that you want to promote, put the sites up, drive traffic to them, do all the things that are involved with affiliate marketing. That is probably something that I'll be moving into next. And I think hiring somebody full time would probably give me the excuse I needed to go ahead and start going that direction.
So real quickly before, and then I want to finish. But I mean, you think about what you've taught your Filipino team doing local business marketing. When you do affiliate marketing, you're doing the same exact thing. You're just doing it for yourself. You're marketing your website. You're doing videos. You're doing link building. You're doing articles. You're doing all these things that you're doing for clients. Now you're just doing them for yourself. It's effective
Absolutely.
for clients. It's effective for you. So
yes,
okay.
Well, and to what you just said, if someone's listening to this and they've been struggling for a long time to make their first dollar online, and they know all this stuff about internet marketing, they just haven't put it together, go find somebody within a 5-mile radius of where you live that has a product to sell, whether it's food, their restaurant, or whether it's a plumber and he has services, or whatever they're not doing internet marketing. They don't have a website. That's one WordPress site. They don't have content. You know about PLR. You know about hiring a writer. You know about this or that. They don't know anything about keyword research or getting backlinks or getting sites ranked. Go out today, knock on some doors, get some business coming in, get somebody paying you to put up a WordPress site for them around their niche, and get them ranked locally. You're going to have some money in your pocket, and you're going to have an excuse to go out and find somebody who will help you put together the site, do the graphics, for the site, and all the other things that go along with it. And then you'll have an excuse to start building this team that'll really put you into business what could be very quickly a full-time business.
Okay, so to finish this, I want to know if you have any. We've gone, I think, about 30 minutes. I want to know if you have any advice you can give to people. People are starting to hire. They're hiring people already in the Philippines. What have you learned as you've done this that you didn't know in the beginning? What advice can you offer to people?
Well, one of the biggest things that I do, and this is personality based, I think, but be detailed in your instructions. My workers actually compliment me on how they tell me very early in their early experiences with me, thank you for your detailed instructions. Thank you for being so clear in what to do. I almost go over and above trying to be clear in this is exactly what I want you to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And if there's any latitude, I'll put that in that line item. If it goes on the left or right, I don't care. You decide. I'll say that to them. But as far as the overall process and what I want the finished product to look like, I'm as detailed as I can be. And that has been a huge asset, a huge plus in my working relationships with my workers and getting work done and having the finished product look right and having a lot less back and forth. If you think that you're going to be able to sit down, you're paying somebody $3 to $5 an hour, and you're going to say, go do this, and they're going to just somehow be able to read your mind, and you're going to be frustrated. And you're probably going to quit this outsourcing thing, and you're going to blame the outsourcer. Now, there are occasions when it is their fault and they're incompetent. As you're learning, you've got to go through a few sometimes before you land on the right one. But a lot of times it's the outsource, it's the boss's problem. It's the business owner's problem. It's the guy that's delegating the job. It's his problem because he's not clear enough. So I would say, first of all, be extremely clear. The second thing I would say is... Hold on.
Yep. I see that so much where people say, oh, I hired this guy in the Philippines. They weren't very good. And then we start talking about it and realize, oh, so you don't know if they were very good or not. Because you didn't follow up enough. You didn't give them enough instructions. You never looked to see if they were very good. You got to be involved. And the more you're involved, the more you'll discover, oh yeah, they're really, really good. So, okay, yes. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so, do that. And of course, if you get something back and it doesn't suit your specifications, rather than complain about, well, they should have known to do this or whatever, put the onus on yourself. Check and see. Assume that you weren't clear enough first. Live with that mindset for a while. Just assume for a while as you're giving them projects that you weren't clear enough. Give them the benefit of the doubt, because I think that's going to reward you more in the long run. The second thing I would say is just be really show your gratitude. Show your gratitude. If they do good work, don't go raise their pay necessarily. I know a lot of people they get into this. The several that I've counseled and coached in outsourcing, they feel badly about how little they're actually having to pay their outsourcer. And so they're real quick to give raises. I wouldn't do that. I would just live in that relationship with your outsourcer right where they came in at the pay grade, and then let them work for a while and then reward them. Reward them nicely, not necessarily with a raise, but maybe just a bonus here and there, or a gift of some kind. But think of ways to show them that you appreciate them. I think that you're glad. I'll literally say this in an email to my workers. I'll say, I'm glad you're on my team. You really matter to this business. You really matter to this team. If someone compliments me on their work, if a client says, wow, this is really, really great stuff, I pass that along to them. And I know some people listening are like, well, man, they might realize that they have this great thing going and they don't need you anymore. And they'll just go, no, they won't. No, they won't. There are people out there that are technical workers that are always going to be technical workers. They're not entrepreneurs. They're not business owners. You're not going to lose them to go out and start their own business. Chances are that's not going to happen. I'm not going to say it's never going to happen, but it's probably not going to happen. Be liberal in your compliments to your workers and say, look, my client told me that it was really great work you did, and I just wanted to tell you that's awesome, because when you do good work, it makes this business look good, and you're an important part of this team. And I think that builds loyalty. And in the Filipino culture, there's already a sense of family and connectedness and loyalty, and you want to take advantage of that and foster that in the relationship that your business has with them as an individual. So those are two things I'd say.
I think this is the third or fourth case study I've done in a row where that was the answer to any other advice you have. Treat them well. Treat them well. It's definitely a recurring theme and it's also definitely something that I see a difference in people who succeed at this and people who don't. And I mean that is a big difference. It's a mindset thing. Well, these people should do what I say right now, versus I wonder if maybe I did something wrong in helping them out. So, thank you very much, Scott. This has been great. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your advice. I appreciate your help and your experience, and I'm glad it's working out for you. So, hey,
thanks a lot, John, because really, you really made some light bulbs come on for me a while back with a lot of the stuff that you were teaching and have been teaching about outsourcing specifically to the Philippines. Probably one of the greatest moves I made. My experience was I'd hired to another country, not the Philippines, another country that was very well recommended, or it was ubiquitously recommended everywhere. Hiring this country, and I did, and I had several bad experiences. So I was starting to get a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about it, and a little bit, I just really kind of got cynical about outsourcing, and the shift that you taught in terms of moving to the Philippines, try the Philippines, that was a shift that really made a huge impact on my outsourcing life, because it really has been fun. I mean, it's been a fun experience to build relationships with my Filipino workers and see the great work that they do and how happy they are to get paid and how happy and excited they are to be a part of my team. So, I want to thank you for that. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later, Scott.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.